Beyond the Red Line, Episode 6, The Grim Sleeper, the Killer Who Hunted South Los Angeles for 25 years. Los Angeles is a city of bright lights and brutal shadows. Palm trees sway over boulevards where dreams are made and where they're shattered. Neon signs glow above South LA streets that the city rarely puts on postcards. Under those lights, in alleys, motels, and abandoned lots, a silent killer hunted for decades. From 1985 to 2007, Black women, many battling addiction, homelessness, or surviving through sex work, started to disappear. Some were found shot or strangled in dumpsters, behind houses, or in trash-strewn alleys. The LAPD barely noticed. The city barely cared. The killer kept going. The newspapers called him the Grim Sleeper, a predator who seemed to vanish for 14 years, then return like a nightmare that never really ended. But his real name was Lonnie David Franklin Jr., a husband, a father, an auto mechanic, a man living on a quiet street in South LA. Tonight, on Beyond the Red Line, we walk through the neighborhoods he hunted, the lives he stole, the system that failed his victims, and the decades-long silence that allowed him to kill in plain sight. To understand how Lonnie Franklin hid, you have to understand where he hunted. South Central Los Angeles in the mid-1980s was scarred by poverty, police mistrust, gang wars, and the rise of the crack epidemic. The cocaine trade exploded. Addiction spread. Families fractured under the pressure, and whole communities were abandoned by social services. Between 1984 and 1985, LA saw a spike in murders, many happening in areas flooded with drug use and sex work. Black women in particular were dehumanized, written off by the media with phrases like transient, drug user, or streetwalker. To the killer, they were targets. To the city, they were invisible. This is where Lonnie Franklin lived. This is where he blended in. Lonnie David Franklin Jr. was born on August 30th, 1952, in South Central LA. He grew up on East 81st Street, in the same neighborhood he would later turn into his hunting ground. He wasn't a loner. He wasn't a recluse. He wasn't the stereotypical Hollywood serial killer. He was a mechanic, a sanitation worker, a man with friends, neighbors he waved at, people who trusted him. He was described as funny, normal, quiet. He played dominoes on his front lawn. He fixed cars for cheap. He had a wife and kids. He was the man who barbecued with neighbors and then slipped out at night to murder their daughters. The killings began in 1985, but for years, no one connected them. Victim 1, Deborah Jackson, August 10th, 1985. 29 years old. Shot 3 times in the chest. Her body was found in an alley near West Vernon Avenue. No suspect, no connections. she became a file in a drawer. 1986 to 1987. Multiple bodies follow. Women like Henrietta Wright, 1986, shot twice, left under a mattress. Thomas Steele, misidentified initially, later confirmed as a woman, strangled, left in an alley. Barbara Ware, 1987, body dumped behind a church, wrapped in a blanket by someone who seemed in a hurry. In each case, Black woman, found partially nude, shot or strangled, dumped in public spaces. And in each case, no press conference, no public warning, no serial killer task force. Because to LA leadership in the 1980s, this wasn't a crisis. These weren't important victims, but someone in South LA knew. Women warned each other. They said, "Don't get in the wrong car. Don't go in alleys alone. There's a man killing girls like us." In 1988, California developed a new DNA collection law for felony offenders. Incarcerated individuals began having cheek swabs taken and stored in databases. This would matter later. But back then, LAPD didn't yet realize how important DNA would become. Evidence from bodies was collected, hair, fluids, fibers, but the backlog was enormous. Thousands of rape kits sat untested on shelves. Among them, evidence from the Grim Sleeper's victims. After 1988, the killings suddenly stopped. Or so it seemed. This is where the nickname Grim Sleeper came from, a supposed 14-year gap between murders. But the truth is far darker. Theory 1. He didn't stop at all. Evidence suggests dozens of Black women disappeared in South LA during this period. Because many weren't reported missing, their disappearances were never tied to a serial killer. Theory 2. Their cases were classified as overdoses or unknown causes. When bodies are found with drugs in their system, some coroners ruled overdose without further analysis. Theory 3. LAPD simply didn't connect the dots. Multiple detectives later admitted the cases were not a priority. For 14 years, Lonnie Franklin lived normally, working for the city sanitation department, fixing cars, raising his children, eating with neighbors, attending parties, giving rides to local women. Some women later said they got bad vibes from him. Others said he was charming. Many said he offered money, food, or rides, especially to women struggling with addiction. He knew the vulnerabilities. He knew exactly who to target. And he knew the city didn't care. After more than a decade of silence, bodies started appearing again. 2002, Princess Berthomeu, age 15. Found strangled, naked, dumped behind a building. A 15-year-old child, linked later to Grim Sleeper DNA. 2003, Valerie McCorvey, 35. Strangled and found behind an abandoned building. 2007, Janicia Peters, 25. Shot and dumped in a garbage bag in an alley near Western Avenue. This case finally triggered a DNA match. Her body was collected by sanitation workers, the same department Lonnie had once worked for. By now, forensic technology had evolved. Her DNA was entered. The killer's DNA was tested. A profile emerged, but it matched no one directly. Then LAPD tried something new. Investigators discovered the killer's DNA was a familial match to a man in California's database. Not the killer himself, but a relative. This relative? Lonnie's son, Christopher Franklin. That meant the killer was Christopher's father, an older male living in the same area, genetically related. All roads led to Lonnie Franklin Jr. Detectives needed his DNA without tipping him off, so they used an undercover sting. The pizza bones. An officer posed as a waiter at a restaurant where Lonnie ate frequently. He took Lonnie's leftover pizza crust, dropped utensils, and an unfinished drink, items containing saliva. When LAPD tested the DNA, it matched evidence from multiple murders. The grim sleeper had been found. On July 7th, 2010, SWAT surrounded Lonnie's home on West 81st Street. What they found inside shocked even veteran detectives. 1. Hundreds of photos of women, most unconscious, some injured, many never identified to this day. 2. Polaroids in boxes, bags, and drawers. Women smiling, women asleep, women clearly drugged. 3rd, trophies, jewelry, ID cards, underwear, personal items from dozens of victims. 4. Weapons, guns hidden behind walls, under floorboards. 5. DNA evidence, clothing, fibers, biological material connecting him to multiple murders. Some victims in the photos were later identified as missing women. Others have still never been found. Investigators believe the true victim count could be 35 to 60 or more. Lonnie Franklin was charged with 10 murders, but police believed he killed many more. The trial began in February 2016. The courtroom was filled with crying family members, activists, and community leaders who had fought for decades to be heard. Prosecutors described Franklin as a man who used addiction, poverty, homelessness, and racism as weapons against marginalized Black women. Witnesses testified that he cruised the stroll at night, offered rides or drugs, assaulted women who resisted, dumped bodies in alleys, photographed victims while dead or unconscious. Victims' families spoke through tears. Some said they pleaded with the police for years and were ignored. The jury deliberated only a day and a half. Verdict: guilty on all 10 counts of murder. Sentence: death. Lonnie Franklin was sent to San Quentin. On March 28, 2020, at age 67, Lonnie Franklin was found unresponsive in his cell. He was pronounced dead shortly after. No clear cause of death was ever released. He died without revealing the names of the women in those Polaroids. he died without giving closure to dozens of families. Some say he took their names to the grave as one final act of control. Lonnie Franklin was able to kill for 25 years because 1. He targeted Black women's society already ignored. Police resources were rarely allocated to cases involving drug use or sex work. 2. LAPD failed to warn the community for years. They didn't release a serial killer alert until activists forced them to. 3. Systemic racism played a direct role. White victims in LA got press conferences. Black women in South LA got silence. 4. The crack epidemic made victims easy to dismiss. Many were written off as overdoses. 5. He lived in the heart of his hunting ground. No one suspected the friendly neighborhood mechanic. 6. He collected trophies, giving him a sense of power. The women in his photos are still part of an active cold case investigation. Remember their names. Lonnie Franklin wanted to hunt women society didn't protect. But tonight, we speak their names. Deborah Jackson, Henrietta Wright, Barbara Ware, Bernita Sparks, Mary Lowe, Lakrika Jefferson, Cynthia Vaughn, Alicia Alexander, Princess Berthamew, Valerie McCorvey, Janikia Peters, and the women whose names we still don't know, the ones in his photos, the ones who never came home. The grim sleeper thrived because the system allowed some women to be uncounted. But here, on Beyond the Red Line, we count them, we remember them, we honor them, and we make sure their stories are finally fully told.